Hey everybody, it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month in Canada. So on our podcast show this week, Stephen and I will be discussing the big topic on everyone's mind, cybersecurity. Yes, cases of IT fraud targeting the elderly in Canada have skyrocketed in recent months and years, especially during COVID. And the sad fact that many of these cases go unreported. So joining me each and every week is our co-host, Stephen. Yes, Stephen Fong. And let me ask you, how have you been? Have you ever been cyber attacked?
Thankfully, no. Thankfully, no. I'm pretty religious with stuff like that, where I won't open anyone's emails. I mean, unless you're knocking on my door, I don't really have much to say to you. So, and even phone calls and whatnot. There's been new schemes where people will phone you on the phone with a phone number, and you try to look it up on the internet. It actually takes you to a phishing site with that particular phone number because they're doing clever things like that. And unfortunately, because of those types of things are happening, a lot of elderly people, like you said, are susceptible to that. They are the least digitally literate in this particular era because a lot of them are falling behind. They're willing to learn. There are programs out there like Cyber Seniors, which pair senior citizens with younger individuals to kind of get them into the cyber space and learn basic skills like internet, email, and what to look for in case something happens.
Yeah.
However, even with these steps in place, in Canada, during the COVID era alone, there were $500 million in losses due to cybersecurity fraud. This includes elderly people, which were disproportionately affected, as well as businesses, which let people sign out laptops with very, very lax cybersecurity issues.
Yeah, that's terrible because it's not only the elderly that actually gets affected. Even the youngsters and even people who are already into their IT can get affected. Some of the phishing and scams and stuff like that is so sophisticated. It's you really need to be on top of it.
Yeah,
but
that's why I mentioned the work thing because a lot of people working from home for the very first time with a company laptop, and that laptop's not locked down. You can be any age, and that would still happen. And this happens in a lot of schools and also workplaces where there are young people that should be savvy. They know Facebook, but apparently, that's not enough.
Yeah. Also joining with us on our podcast is my brother Yao. He's a cybersecurity expert. And I'll ask him some questions, right?
Yeah, he's going to be appearing on and off to help us kind of punctuate some of the severity and also some of the things that may make you a little bit less afraid of some of these issues, because once he breaks it down, it shouldn't be as scary of a mountain to tackle.
Yeah, he's been on our show once before with cybersecurity, and we did ask him a question about whether he actually works for the British intelligence agency, MI6.
And he couldn't tell us either way. We would probably die with someone with a license to kill to come find us. But speaking of cybersecurity, what we also want to punctuate is the fact that Kingston is our partner for this episode. And at the end of this episode, we're going to tell you how to win one of these Ironkey Keypad 200 security drives. This is probably one of the most difficult things to hack into because, well, you pretty much can't unless you have the key code. I'm not going to say impossible because things are evolving, but this is one of the strongest ways for you to keep some of your banking information and your 2FA backup codes. And we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the show. And please listen along because we're going to tell you some more features about this and how it can protect you.
That's right. Okay. Basically, last year in Canada, statistics show over 85% of companies were affected by successful cyber attacks. Fraud and scams are the most common form of cyber crime, affecting millions of individuals, totaling a staggering $530 million in victim losses.
So I was right, $500 million.
Yeah. That's nearly 40% increase from 2021. To kick off this discussion, we asked Yao, my brother, cybersecurity expert Yao, we asked him a couple of questions. The first one is, what's the most common form of cyber attacks? So let's have a listen. Let's have a listen.
There are, I suppose, two sides of it, in my kind of opinion. There is obviously attacks on the actual, how would you say, service or application, where there may be vulnerabilities in that particular service or application, which I suppose the attackers can leverage. that is one side of kind of attacks, and that's attacking the service. The other side of it is attacking the user, not attacking the user, but kind of phishing in a way, kind of gaining information and of users and leveraging that information in order to attack the systems that they use.
Okay, that was interesting.
Yeah, phishing, browser cookies, browser session cookies are hijacked, and there was a famous incident actually in Canada that that happened
to our IT nerds. I guess that person is the Short King, as they call him, the Birkenstock wearing PC builder, Linus Tech Tips. His entire empire was taken down due to one of these security issues related to the browser. I mean, but the browser itself, that's actually not a security flaw in Google's eyes. It's actually a feature.
Yeah, it's a feature. It allows users to open multiple sessions for like say email, Gmail, YouTube, for example, and other stuff like that. And it's for users' convenience because you don't have to log in each time. But the browser session cookie is supposed to last, say, I'm figuring about 30 minutes. But I heard that it was actually longer. So if that's the case, and if for someone within a network, gets like a scam or a phishing email and actually accidentally clicks on that, then he could get in, hijack the browser session cookies, and take control of basically all the accounts and stuff.
Everything that's open, you have full reign to. Wow. Okay, that's crazy. We don't know if Google has wanted to address this or not, but I think they probably should. But there is a convenience factor that you lose, because I like being able to open my browser window and have all 50 of my emotional support tabs open immediately and return me to exactly where my session was. But I can see that maybe that's not such a great thing to do these days.
That's it, because you can flip through multiple browser sessions, browsers, and it'll take you back to the original, right? Without having to log in each time, which is a pain. But you can find certain sites, such as most banking sites, have a very short browser session, right? Because they need to. If you're not active, it will cut you off or end the session. Same with PayPal. I noticed that, because if you're inactive for how many minutes, they will cut you off. You have to log in again, basically.
My mobile apps do that as well too. I think that's very smart.
Yeah, that's also good. That prevents limits the chances of browser session cookies hijacking. So that's good.
Because it's not 100% of it's not 100% what banks are doing, but they're limiting the amount, and they may even make that more stringent in the future as cybercrime increases. Yeah,
and at the same time, so we asked Yao about the what governments doing to prevent cyber attacks. They're protecting the user and things like that. So let's have a listen. Yeah.
The UK government, I can't say for any other government. The UK government has got lots of documentation, security documentation, and guidelines, principles on how it should be set up, and they outsource quite a lot of their work in order to how do you say build the IT industry up, basically. But there are some stuff that they have in-house, obviously.
Okay, so the UK government seems like they've got things on the handle. After all, they are the British Secret Service, and they do all those movies.
Yeah, so they have a lot of guidelines and policies, and they outsource a lot of the IT security contractors. My brother is one of them, and he's a contractor and a cybersecurity IT expert in his company.
Yeah.
He's a contractor that's contracted to work in the government agency and stuff like that. But they also team up with other contractors, other companies, where they have a security framework, which and it acts as a community as well. And they all share like information, cybersecurity information, and recent attacks and things like that. Learn from each other, or learn new sophisticated attacks, and they get all this information to then share, and also how kind of find ways to prevent it, or find possible solutions. And they also joined this kind of group as a reassurance to tell the US UK government, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're gonna take it forward, which is great. They call it the cyber security intelligence. It sounds very
CSI. It's called CSI.
Cybersecurity intelligence.
You can't do that. That's a trademark.
Yeah, that's all good. Like I also asked him about the whether in his field of work has he seen any cybersecurity crime increase, and he said yes, there's plenty, there's loads, especially now with COVID and also with everybody going online with computers, tablets, phones, and things like that. There's a lot of online presence now than before. So criminals are finding ways to trying to kind of hack you and give you scans. Yeah. It's going to happen, and it will continue to increase. So that's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. So. It as people get more connected, we're going to have to be more diligent and vigilant. Personally, we have to take some personal responsibility for that. And like this is why a lot of senior citizens were actually disproportionately affected, mainly because they live in an era where this is still new things to them, and this is not how things were done. There's also a digital literacy factor where a lot of people are just not into the lingo. They don't know why this does what it does. So it's very unfortunate. And as our population ages, I think that we're going to see different types of crime, but similar types of vectors and similar types of, I think the term, he said something about whale. Yeah, it's not phishing, it's whaling.
Whaling.
Yeah, so a lot of people that are retiring that have huge bank accounts, maybe disproportionately affected.
They rather target those because they know with the one target, that's, for example, they can scan them like hundreds of thousands rather than trying to scan someone with like, $10, $50. It all adds up. But if you can target a big whale, like, I'll give you a couple of million, then
then you're gone.
It's easier that way.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Right. Okay, data is important.
Yes.
So data protection and things like that. So let's talk about data protection and data storage. I've seen great security solutions from Kingston that offers hardware encryption.
Yeah, like the Ironkey here that, like we promised, we're going to talk about this a little bit more and why you actually want one of these. And we are giving a few of them actually away to some lucky Canadians. You've been using this for a little bit. Tell me something about this that people don't know.
This is something, they have different versions, okay? So this one has the keypad. So there's a couple of ways, of course. You can actually go use the app, which you can download, and it's also actually on there as well. So the first setup is you can use this to set up and then punch in the keypad, all right? So lock in your key code. And then with that, then you can just take that to any computer. That computer doesn't have the app, right? Yeah. So you can just use it as a normal driver by punching in or unlocking the USB using the keypad. And there are other ones without the keypad where you have to have the app installed so they can decrypt the data, right?
This one's more convenient because of that key code. It's like your locker combination, right?
Yeah, that's right. So there's lots of different ways, and this is pretty decent. I've been using something similar, but we're going to give those away. So let me tell you a little bit more about this. It's designed to be the world's most secure USB drive. It protects data, passwords, internet privacy and stuff like that, right? And uses the most advanced security technologies, right? So even if you lose it, if it gets lost or stolen, it's impossible to access this data without the PIN, right? The password of the PIN. And the data remains encrypted, and protected, even if you restore it to a new iron key. So you can actually if you lose your drive, you can get another one, and you can restore the data, all right, securely back onto the drive.
This is their cloud service, right?
Yeah, that's right. You sign up for it, and the iron key is so simple to use. You don't have to worry about it because the data is protected and encrypted, and nobody can access it without the PIN or password. It's securely stored online if you want to go for that service. But you can actually take the online backup, the secure online backup, and really restore it back onto the drive.
I heard that there's also a really neat thing that this is something that a lot of people should be doing on their PCs. Is that you need to set up an admin account first, which you you've got that all locked under lock and key, and then you've got your user accounts on this thing. So the admin account is the only account that can actually reset the password on the Ironkey, any version of it through the app, and that actually keeps you safer, because then even if someone were to figure out your user password, they wouldn't be able to reset the key to access the admin.
Yes. So if you're an admin, you can actually lock the drive remotely.
Wow. Okay.
That's how good it is.
Good to know. I did not realize that part. So really powerful. Holy moly. Okay, that's great. So this kind of goes into, I think, the next section as well, which is ransomware, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Yao has something to tell us about that, doesn't he?
Yeah, so basically, if you've all heard stories of big companies, falling to ransomware, right? So, in fact, there was an incident where hackers are targeting critical infrastructure businesses such as utilities, power, gas, water, the stuff like that. And it was a U.S. company that was called Colonial Pipelines. Pipeline. Oil, stuff like that, right? And gas. It was a victim of ransomware, and I think it was in 2021, May.
Yeah.
It was infected some of the pipelines, digital systems, right? So therefore, the gas wasn't pumping. It was shut down. It was shut down for several days, right? Okay. This shutdown affected airlines, truckers, everything, right? So basically, the infrastructure, the industries, the heavy industries, the industries that we rely on, transport and stuff like that, was all affected, right? Travel and everything.
Okay.
So I asked some questions, and what is ransomware, and how do we better protect ourselves from ransomware? So let's have a listen. Okay.
Ransomware is where a piece of malware it infects your system, and it encrypts your hard drive, I suppose, or data. That particular data then is only accessible or can be unencrypted by the attacker, the malicious person or user, and then they demand ransom in order to free up your data so that you can have it back, I suppose. They usually operate in a way that once they get you once, they can probably get to you again. So it's something that you shouldn't really pay ransom to.
All right. So Yao's got some interesting things to tell us about, and in particular, a lot of things are super simple, and it's tied into the other story that we told you about a certain tech YouTuber.
That's
too,
right. It's the attacks. Even so, weren't that sophisticated. It's basically malware, right? That affects your system and encrypts your data or your drive. That means you can't access it anymore. You have to pay a ransom to these hackers or scammers to unlock the data and the drive, which some people I've heard do. But my brother says don't do it, because if you're prone to one attack, there's a likely chance that they'll do it again.
Yeah.
All right. So never pay your ransom. That's why it's important to have data backups on a separate drive, in the cloud, or anywhere else, right? Because you have a copy of that data. Even if it's like a day old, at least you don't have to lose everything, right?
You can go back in time and start from scratch, and then just forget about the new data.
Yeah. So that's where these USB drives are handy, right?
Yeah.
So great to have backups, and even if you think your backup gets hacked or locked or encrypted, you have a secure online backup, an online copy in Kingston. Is it Kingston's, right? Online. So
the Kingston Ironkey, actually, the reason why you want one of these is that if you keep a copy of your passwords and everything, your strong passwords on here, you can still access a lot of them and get through. Also, including 2FA codes, 2FA, which we'll talk about in a little second. They offer the ability to have backup codes, so those circumvent the current code and allow you to go into your account even if you lose the primary code. And those are very important as well too. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. So the advice is, don't click on any links, don't visit any dodgy sites. If you get an email that's, you don't You
Looks
haven't
weird.
Yeah, it looks weird. You don't know where it's from. It's not something that you expect. If your name is misspelled, look at the address where it says to
Yeah.
and from, things like that, But you also explained that, good email systems such as, believe it or not, Google, Yahoo are very good email services, and they actually prevent spam. They filter out spam, and they even tell you if this email looks dodgy, right? Potential spam, it says. And you could also put it in the spam bin. And the spam bin is actually a bit of an AI. It actually recognizes every time you put an email in there, a spam email, it'll take this content and they'll AI it, right? Recognizing certain traits of that email, and in the future, it will then filter out those as well.
Keep in mind, it isn't always correct.
Yeah,
so if you do have, if you've entered a giveaway and you're looking for your prize claim code and you know that, you should probably rummage around in your spam bin, because chances are it's probably
it
in
might
there.
be in there. Yeah,
it might be in there.
Yeah, so it's always all good to look in the spam box to take a look and see if there's any missed emails.
Or worst case scenario, just call the company that you're dealing with and just verify the information that you're seeing. Sometimes a phone call is the most awesome way to figure it out. Even just emailing the company, not replying to the email, but emailing the company directly through the info account and figuring out if this is legitimate.
That's right. And I know this is probably something that you guys already do. Is having 2 email addresses.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, if one gets blocked or spammed or hacked into, you always can rely on the other email address. So
true.
Yeah. It's always good to have 2. I got multiple. So
Yeah.
All right. I think we also asked you about the something called the DDoS or DDoS attack. So now here's some cybersecurity jargon, right? DDoS and DOS and stuff like that. So it can cause server outages, right? Online businesses and monetary losses, and such as banks and trading platforms and things like that. It's also a place where it places excessive stress on the IT people to kind of like come up with a solution, get the server online and stuff like that. So it's quite a big incident. So I asked a couple of questions to Yao, and he explained a little bit more on this. So I asked him what the DDoS is and how it affects computers and users, and what can we do to prevent DDoS attacks. So let's have a listen.
Sure.
DDoS attack is what we call distributed denial of service. Okay. Originally, there was denial of service where it mainly affects companies, organizations, rather than users, because it's mainly aimed at a service, a web server or web service that's being published out on the internet, and you're able to access it. So what is originally is a DOS attack, which is a single source of attack where they're flooding the web service with millions of requests per second, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of requests per second, and the servers trying to service those requests. Trying to serve out a web page to that request, but because there's millions of requests, it's unable to process them all, and then hence maybe crashes the system or just completely slows down the system. So a page which usually loads in 3 seconds now takes about 20 seconds to load, maybe a minute to load, however long the delay is.
This is very serious, like zombie computers.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, DDoS. So initially, back in the day, back in old golden PC days, it used to be called DOS, right? Denial of service, right?
Yeah.
So it's very simple. But now it's DDoS, so distributed denial of service. So what happens is if you click on a malware or you guess, anything with a dodgy link, the malware affects your computer and it turns into like a zombie. We call it zombie PC. So it's doing stuff in the background which you don't know, such as some people, scammers, they put the malware to do the crypto
mining.
Yeah.
That was bigger during when you could actually make money off of it.
And the other one is basically sending ping or request to certain services such as Yahoo,
Yeah.
YouTube, or PayPal, or any of those kind of online services that require internet connection, right?
Yeah.
So it turns your zombies into like a ping machine. So each ping you get sent to that particular service, the service has to reply or answer to that request.
Yeah.
And if you get millions and millions of requests per second, it's going to bring a huge load on the server, and sometimes it just crashes because it can't handle it.
So essentially, if you didn't get all that, it's basically your machine is infected and you've become reluctantly added to a zombie army. Yeah. This army, without your knowledge even, is actually attacking another entity somewhere in the world, possibly a government agency.
Yep, government agency.
And trying to take them down by freezing the servers in such a way that they cannot respond to external requests, therefore bringing down the infrastructure that relies on the information pulled out. For example, yesterday was National Hamburger Day, and the Wendy's server went down because they were offering 2 cheeseburgers for $2, and you needed to order on the app or online, and I couldn't get through on the app.
You couldn't get through. And,
too many people wanted cheeseburgers.
Yeah, and the server just couldn't handle the requests, and they were shut down.
Yeah, so Wendy's was owned by its own promotion, which was actually too popular, and no one could get cheeseburgers as a result.
Yep.
So the similar thing.
Similar thing, yeah. So how to prevent it, basically just to don't click on any links again. Links are the worst possible kind of the most easiest way for hackers and scammers to get in. They usually send you emails like frightening emails, right?
Yeah.
Such as like things like bankruptcy, court stuff, your bank, your overdraft, or something like that, right? To scare you. And your eBay accounts or your PayPal account's been hacked. Click on this to change your password.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what happens, right?
Don't do that.
You click on a link, you change your password. Yeah. Basically, they got your password, and that's it. Away it goes. So,
yeah. Well, one of the fun things is that even though Chrome has pluses and minuses, one of the things that Chrome does do now, if you turn on this the security feature, is that it will block these because it's already scanning the internet for really bad links. I'm not saying that you should rely on this, but I am saying that if you made a mistake, you still have a way for it to backtrack. So basically it blocks you and says, hey, the site that you're heading to has some security issue. It doesn't have a security, or it's known to be a phishing malware site. You can then shut off your session and not go there. Okay. I recommend don't proceed further because there's a reason why Google is doing that, is to protect its customers, partially to find out what security needs that you need, because they are an advertising company. So they might be fishing for information as well too. So be aware of that. It's not always not always a pure thing, but it does keep you from getting phished and hacked and stuff like that in many cases. So listen to what it's telling you.
All right, so moving on to this 2FA.
Yeah, I think that's a good
We've
one.
all heard of 2FA when it comes to security and verification, user verification, things like that.
Yeah.
And many platforms such as Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all the big banks and things like that encourage us to use the 2FA.
Yeah.
So to explain this all, let's ask you some questions like what is 2FA and what does it do to protect us? What does it, how does it work? So let's have a listen.
Sure, let's get the lowdown.
2FA is part of what we call a multi-factor authentication process. And you'll hear 2FA more commonly because that's just kind of two forms of authentication. They are in fact multiple for more than two. So the 2FA or multiple factor authentication, multi-factor authentication requires, how would you say, multiple forms of authentication. So that is like, how would you say? So one of them would be what you know. So that's your password, username and password. What you have, it could be a device or code, one-time code that gets sent to your phone, and they use that. That's a second factor. And there's also a third one called what you are, fingerprint,
biometrics,
retinal scan, biometrics. That's correct. Yeah. So there's not 2FA is kind of defines the two requiring kind of two factors of authentication.
But there are multiple ways.
But there are multiple ways, more than there's not just two factor. There's multiple ways as well.
So it does really help.
It does help because if you think about it, if you require just password, username and passwords, so that's what single factor, that is more easy to
obtain, to hack, to
obtain,
get, to get.
It's easy to obtain, easy to crack the passwords, and
I see a lot of authenticator programs or apps where it's almost like those keychain fob that we used to have for the banks that change the code every 30 seconds.
That's exactly what it is, but it's not. But it's on the phone, in the phone format. So basically,
how does that work? Yeah.
So basically, when you sign up to a service, a cloud service, you would typically obviously create a username and password, but then you have an option to turn on or enable two-factor. Nowadays, more and more of those cloud services forces you to set up the two-factor, and what it includes, what you need to do is scan a code with QR code or input a code to that Authenticator app, which you then use to generate a one-time code for when you log in, which lasts for 30 seconds. So when you log into, I don't know, maybe your bank, you put in your username, you put in your password, you click next and said, oh, now give me the one-time password, one-time passcode, which will only last for 30 seconds. So you get your phone out, you click on the one-time, the app, which is doing the one-time code, you click that, you generate the code, put the code in, and you're in.
Okay, that was good. He basically broke it down to 3 things, right?
Yeah, basically 2FA is a multi-factor authentication. So it's not just 2FA, there's also 3FA, three-factor authentication. And it's all good to have. And he explains it in 3 things. It's what you know, so the information that you have, and what you have, the physical devices that you have there, right? And the third one is what you are. So like biometrics, your fingerprints, your eyes, your face, and stuff like that. So these are 3 things which help in authenticating the user, right? And they kind of complement each other. If you lose your email, password, or stuff like that, you still have your face. And the other thing is what you have. You could have a device which you can
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the device thing is actually fairly new in recent last 5 years, where even banks are starting to implement it, where if you log in with a specific device, it will ask you, are you sure you want to log in with this device? This isn't one of your regular devices. Yeah. That gives you and it will actually email you or text you letting you know that this device, once logged in, has access to your account. This gives you a heads up to actually go into your account and kick off those devices that you don't recognize. Because if you're sitting there and someone somehow is logged into your account, no, that's not possible.
Yeah,
you go in and actually block it.
That's right. I mean, if you're your Apple user and using all Apple devices, and suddenly you see a Android device
from Ghana
somewhere, right? No, that's not me. So you can say no, close it, do not accept, deny. But the other thing was the Authenticator apps that you see a lot of now. So Google does one, Microsoft does one,
LastPassword, OnePass,
things like that. So basically, it's how back in the day we had these physical devices like the key fob for the banks.
It's like a pager.
Yeah, and it changes every 30 seconds the code. So exactly the same thing. And what good thing about this Authenticator app is you can actually scan the QR code and install the Authenticator thing, 2FA for all the services such as Google, Yahoo, Facebook. I have a ton of them, right? Yeah. Even my Twitch account has 2FA, right?
Yeah. So and recently Elon asked you to not be able to use your phone. So he's actually implemented 2FA when you're starting up a brand new X account, which used to be Twitter. So even he's become very serious about that, and that just keeps the platform hack free. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, I think it's excellent because the code changes every 30 seconds. It's very difficult for a hacker to figure out your password.
It's
or
always
your,
changing.
Yeah, because it's always changing, right? And 30 seconds isn't enough time unless you have a supercomputer or some stuff to decode, right?
Yeah.
30 seconds is not a long time. So that code changes every 30 seconds, which allows then to, which is great because I know that if you don't punch in those code in time, you can't get in.
Yeah, 2FA is very, very important, and something we actually discovered about this tool that we've been talking about, and we will be giving away a couple of these at the end of the show, so we'll tell you how to do that, is that the Ironkey ends up being a very good travel companion. And I'll tell you why. When you set up an app, this is banking apps, any apps that require Authenticator access, chances are, if you change the SIM card in your phone to get the best rates wherever you travel, you may not be able to receive text, or some of the 2FA apps get a little funny when you change your IP address or your Mac, like it's tied to the SIM, right? So in order to access those accounts, like let's just say that you're traveling, you lost your cash, you need to get into your account to transfer more, like your Wise account maybe perhaps, because they have very, they also are very secure. This device, the Ironkeys, not only do they, and as we talked about, not only do they provide secure access to files that you put on it, but the fact that they cloud backup as well too. So let's just say that your airport, you lost all your luggage, you have a cloud backup available with all that same information that was in your physical key. Now, the reason why the physical key is actually a really good idea is because if you store the backup codes and you can pick those up from any of the Authenticator apps, they're authenticating your code. You can do backup codes that you can store on here. Usually it's like 6, 10, maybe 12 codes. Those are for emergency purposes, right? So as long as you have a backup code for your battle.net accounts, if you're playing StarCraft or any of the Blizzard games, or your bank accounts or whatever, you have a way to get back into those accounts remotely if you're out of the country, because sometimes you do need to do that. Yeah. And that's kind of a neat travel hack to have one of these with you with just that backup information. That's right.
Because if you lose your phone while you're abroad,
I've lost my phone. It was a pain in the butt.
Or if you damage your phone and your Authenticator app is actually on the phone, it's damaged, you can't use it, or it's lost, stolen, then how would you authenticate yourself on the banking app or the Google app, whatever, right? And the other way is, of course, to access that backup, the secure encrypted backup that you have with this service on the Kingston, so get your codes back.
Yeah, like I was just lucky because I had my Samsung tablet with me, and because I'm in the Samsung ecosystem now, the tablet was actually my secondary authenticator.
Oh, that's right.
So not everyone has that. And I do have to stress that having tools like these to make life easier as a physical barrier, as a physical savior for access to your apps when you're abroad, really helps out. And if you want some more information on that, maybe we'll do another show about travel, and we'll actually include that in some of the ways that we've been using it. I think that's very beneficial to have one of these along, even though this seems like it's a super security thing. It could be just as basic as trying to get back into your travel account. Yeah, that you're trying to find your like, you've lost everything on travel. All you have is a cloud backup. You've even lost this thing. Maybe you haven't, but just something to keep in mind as a foil towards any of those unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah. So as far as data backup and recovery, secure data backup and data protection, the Kingston Ironkey is pretty decent. Yeah. Of course, you have 2FA to protect yourself. And simple things like changing your passwords every few months, right? So every month is a bit too much, I think, but every few months is good. Even big places, big corporations at work, they enforce you to change every month.
It's a good idea.
When I was working in GE, they make you change every couple of months. So that's good practice. Once you get used to it, that's fine. And passwords can be a bit more complex. I think my brother did mention about complex passwords. Don't think about just like asterisks and stars and @ symbols and things like that, right? And not too short. The shorter it is, it's actually the easier to hack. Yeah. It turns out that because each letter added gives it exponentially gets harder. So he says the best ones are anything 12 words, 12 letters or more. That will take them a few thousand years to hack, actually.
Few thousand years. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm dead by then.
12 characters or more. But most people do like 6 characters, right? It's a bit too short. 8 characters. Most apps allow 8 characters is fine. But if you can, up 12 characters or more. And that will give a bit of a headache for hackers because...
Yeah. This sounds a whole lot like the passwords that cafes tend to use. Like public Wi-Fi is another big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, chances are if you're traveling, you might want to go onto Wi-Fi to buy that SIM card that you needed to, put into your phone because you're tired of paying local the carrier roaming rates in Canada, right?
Yeah.
So there's actually a really great article at Kingston. They have it on their blog, and we'll leave that link down below for you. That gives you kind of some common sense tips on how to kind of avoid some of the pitfalls. My personal trick is to actually try to go on a VPN.
VPN, VPN.
That's a number one good way to kind of get through that.
That's right.
My Samsung actually has a built-in service that allows it to kick in as part of its own security stack when I need it to. But usually I can put my house is a trusted network. So I've already registered my house as a trusted network, so I don't use up my service. But when I'm outside and I've gone to a place where there's no cell service and it latches onto a network, it's trying to log in, that's when this kicks in and ensures that my session is secure. And again, if you are accessing services, it's especially when you're traveling, I think that this is something that a lot of people don't think about because they're having so much fun.
That's true.
So having it automatically work on your phone might save you a lot of grief.
That's right. VPN is good because, for example, there are certain apps and systems that only allow you to access, for example, if you're in Canada, right? And it detects that if you're abroad, you haven't got a Canadian IP address, right? So I'm in UK, for example. I got UK IP address. My phone is attached to a UK network providing a UK IP address. So when I'm trying to access a Canadian app or service, it says, hey, hold on, your device is in the UK. So it'll instantly block it, right? So with a VPN, you can attach your device to a Canadian service, VPN, right? Which sees your device as in Canada, and then you allow you to access, which is what most people can do as well.
Yeah, so that's something that we completely forgot initially, is that that's another attack vector, is that public Wi-Fi, coffee shop Wi-Fi, not very secure. And who's looking after that router? It's stuck behind the counter, it's full of dust. Maybe someone put in an inline connector there to actually keylog things.
Keylog everything,
right? So a VPN may not be 100% foil to that, but at least it's some security that it won't get the worst of you, right?
Yeah, I still see people using passwords like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And speaking of passwords too, I mean, if you don't want to pay a monthly fee for something like OnePass or LastPassword and whatnot, the Ironkey comes in really handy because you can actually store all your long passwords on here and cut and paste them into the browser session, because you need the app to open the key. Once you have the key open, then you can grab the password, put it in your browser. I know it's long-winded, but if it's something really important, maybe that's a good piece of mind.
And a lot of people, of course, crypto's been around for a while.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And a lot of people who are new to crypto don't realize how the passphrases that come with crypto wallets and things like that are so important. But if you lose that, that's it, your crypto wallet's gone.
That's right.
So those passphrases could be long, could be 12, 16 words now. They're not characters, words.
Wow.
And they have to go in a certain order. And if you don't have that, your crypto wallet's gone. Or imagine you have like lots of assets in that, right? So with that, you can store all your crypto phrases, key phrases and stuff like that, and codes in there. So that's all good.
It's like unlocking the Winter Soldier. Even the guy needed the book with all the words to unlock Winter Soldier and program him, right? So having an Ironkey for that purpose makes a lot of sense. So buy the Ironkey once, I guess, and then you don't have to pay a subscription fee for many that type of service, LastPassword service.
Right. It is very important to do your backups. Speaking from experience, data backups is so important, extremely important. I learned my lesson the hard way. Believe me, you don't want to go through what I've been through with the data. even it's not on a security type of thing, but more on a just data backup. If you lose your backup, you only have one set of information files. If your drive goes, whether it's on a laptop or PC, if your drive goes, because it can go anytime, right? And you don't have a backup.
Yeah.
It's gone.
It's
right?
gone forever, right? All your pictures, memories, and everything like that. Even if you're just backing up to Google Drive, or even just doing photos only to a free Dropbox account, at least it's there.
Yeah.
At least it's there. At least it's somewhere because you have those accounts. But I tend to rely on other services as well too. I also have what they call a network attached storage, which is also secured. That it backs up to locally. I know that that's going to be lost in the fire, but at least I have a duplicate of the most important information. And if everything were to go with an iron key, something like this, at least I have passwords and 2FA codes to get back into my more important cards, like accounts, like my government, account, right, where I need to file my taxes and everything like that. I need that information to be able to
personal information. I think my brother did mention about that. Personal information,
passports, copy of passports,
that's
birth
right,
certificate.
That's right. Yep, all that kind of stuff. Which you do have a physical copy, but in case anything happens, house fire, you lose your passwords and things like that, right?
Very good point. Because if we're traveling, it's on here and it's on the cloud as well too, because it's always backed up. You could lose everything in the country, but you would still have some chance of recovering your life. That's the good point. Good point. So the iron key is very important. It could be a lifesaver.
Right.
Awesome.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that's all the stuff we covered.
I think so. And we did promise we're going to tell you how to give away one of these. But before we do that, why should people subscribe to our podcast?
Of course, you need to subscribe because by subscribing to us and clicking on that notification, you will get all of the latest podcasts, which will be published every Wednesday
at noon.
And we've got lots of new topics, lots of interesting stories. And yes, thank you for subscribing.
Yeah, and to thank you for subscribing as well too, we are giving away 4 of these Iron Key USB drives. These are 32 gigabyte versions. You don't need a lot to store 2FA codes, pictures of your passwords, PDF files, important things like this. You just need to have them available on here and use this correctly. Again, there's an admin account, there's a user account, there's cloud backup. Use all the services available on this, and we are going to be giving away 4 of these to 4 lucky Canadians. How we're going to do that is we want you to use the email address that's the legitimate email address that's in our description of this podcast, and we want you to tell us a story about cybersecurity. Maybe it's a story where you got hacked or a loved one got hacked. We want to send you one of these. So be one of the 4 that tells us a harrowing tale of something that happened to you and maybe how you got out of it, or maybe you didn't.
First 4?
First 4. No, actually, best 4.
The best 4.
Best 4.
The best 4.
Okay. Tell us your story. And we might share, with your permission, we might share some of those stories in an upcoming episode. Okay, so write us, tell us about your tales and your woes. Make sure and share this podcast. Maybe some information will come out in this podcast that really made a difference to you. And with the help of Kingston, thank you, Kingston, for giving us an opportunity to maybe help someone secure their life just a little bit more with the giveaway of these Iron Keys. And again, we've got 4 of them, 4 lucky Canadians. Email us below with the email address, the legit email address that's below. It's ourpodcastshow@gmail.com, and tell us about your cybersecurity tale. And of course, we're going to pick 4, and the best stories will be receiving these. Okay,
that's right.
Okay, and it's that simple. And if you want to tell us more about cybersecurity and maybe some tips that we missed, or maybe something that we misspoke about, we're always into bettering ourselves. So you could either leave a comment below in the comment area, or you can hit up our social channels. We're at Our Podcast Show on both Instagram and also the X Factor. So that's another place where they use two-factor verification.
So thanks for joining this week's podcast on of course, this month's cybersecurity awareness in Canada.
Yeah.
Right. So, we hope you've given us, given you guys an insight on how to better protect yourselves against cybersecurity attacks.
And your loved ones as well too.
That's right.
A lot of cyber seniors out there, they're getting hacked, and we need to take care of our elder people that have done so much for us.
Okay, and of course, by using some of the tools that we described and some of the services that are available, hopefully that you better protect yourselves. So,
yeah. And if there's something that you want to ask additional questions on, Kingston also has an Ask an Expert form on their website. We're going to leave a link below. If there's something that you don't want to talk about publicly, or if you don't want to put the comment below because you're worried, send them a message through that form. We'll leave a link below.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. I would like to say thanks to my brother Yao for lending his expertise in this matter, cybersecurity, and of course our sponsors, Kingston.
Yeah. And if you don't hear from us next week because something happened and there's no show, maybe Yao's bosses at MI6 didn't like us talking about any of this, which means we're on the right track.
All right. Okay. So I think that's all we have.
Yeah.
Until next time. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.